NATO allies send Ukraine 17,000 anti-tank missiles and NLAW in 6 days. Ukrainian leaders say the shipments, sent by US and other NATO allies, have made a difference against Russia's armored vehicles. The New York Times reports in just 6 days, the United States and other NATO allies have supplied Ukraine with more than 17,000 anti-tank weapons, the New York Times reported Sunday. The shipments include the medium-range, US-made Javelin, the Anglo-Swedish short-range NLAW, rocket-propelled grenades, and other anti-tank systems, according to the report. Similar ammunition was supplied to Ukraine before the war broke out, along with Bayraktar drones supplied by Turkey before and during the conflict. According to the New York Times, 70% of the $350 million military aid, approved by U.S. President Joe Biden on February 26, was delivered within 5 days in an attempt to get the weapons into Ukraine before Russian forces started attacking aid convoys. These arms shipments were largely shipped from Germany initially, and then were sent through Poland, Romania, and a few other neighboring countries before continuing over the Ukraine border to Kyiv and other major cities. Ukrainian leaders informed U.S. officials that the weapons shipments were making a difference on the battlefield, according to the Times. Russian losses, the real stats as Ukraine figures show destroyed tanks, drones, boats. Russia has been hesitant to acknowledge losses during its invasion of Ukraine, publishing conservative figures which differ wildly from those emerging from the ground. Russia's Ministry of Defense admitted to some casualties for the first time last week, though rejected reports of incalculable losses as disinformation. Major General Igor Konashenkov said 498 Russian troops have been killed and a further 1,597 wounded, but a look at the latest figures emerging from Ukraine paint a very different picture. According to data collected from the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, the number of Russian military personnel killed is over 11,000. The Ukrainian MOD published its latest data on Wednesday, March 2, with the caveat that all figures were indicative and complicated by the high intensity of hostilities. Despite this, a clear picture is emerging, and it's very different to the one painted by Moscow. According to these latest statistics, a total of over 11,000 Russian soldiers have been killed, and at least 200 have been captured as prisoners of war by Ukraine. In terms of machinery losses, Ukraine said Russia has suffered a loss of 999 armored vehicles, 454 wheeled vehicles, 290 tanks, 117 artillery, 60 fuel tanks, 50 rocket systems, 48 helicopters, 46 fixed-wing aircraft, 23 anti-aircraft devices, 7 drones and 2 boats. These are much higher numbers than those coming out of Moscow. Russian independent organizations that help parents find their sons have told the AFP news agency that conscripts were taking part in the conflict, having been made to sign documents before crossing the border. But Major Konashenkov said neither conscripts nor cadets have been involved in the operation in Ukraine. He also said that among Ukrainian troops, 2,870 have been killed, around 3,700 injured and 572 captured, but these figures could not be independently verified. Ukraine's State Emergency Service said that more than 2,000 civilians have died, though it was impossible to verify that claim. The Russian ship that bombed Snake Island is destroyed. One of the Russian warships that bombed Ukraine's Snake Island on the first day of the war was destroyed by a rocket. Defense forces in the Black Sea port city of Odessa hit the warship Vasily Baiko with a rocket. It was one of 2 warships involved in the famous attack on Snake Island, where 13 Ukrainian Coast Guards, who were on defense, were ordered to surrender by the Russian Navy, but their response was, "Go to hell," before they were bombed. A video of the rockets fired from Odessa hitting the ship was released the day before. "We shot him," one of the Ukrainian soldiers shouted. Russian warship, go to hell. The 13 border guards on Snake Island were initially reported to have been killed in the February 24 attack, but it was later alleged that they may have survived and that they may have been captured. The audio messages recorded during the attack showed the bravery of 13 men in the face of the threat from Russian warships. The captain of the ship was told, "I suggest you lower your weapons and surrender to avoid bloodshed and unnecessary casualties." But the guards answered, "Russian warship, go to hell." On Monday evening, a source from the Ukrainian Navy told The Times, "The ship has been wrecked, I can confirm that." NATO is afraid of Russia. Zelensky powerful speech in the British Parliament. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Tuesday accused the West of fearing Russia, saying the Ukrainian people are facing Russian aggression alone. Saying that in front of the British Parliament, Zelensky has openly said that NATO fears Russia, adding that this is the only reason that the Euro-Atlantic alliance is not intervening in the war. "We understand that NATO is not ready to accept Ukraine. The alliance is afraid of contradictory things in confrontation with the Russian Federation," Zelensky said. Among other things, Zelensky has confirmed that Ukraine will not give up the war with Russia. In a powerful statement, Zelensky likened the war with Russia to Britain's efforts in World War II. "On the first day at 4 o'clock in the morning we were attacked by rockets, everyone woke up, people, children, all of Ukraine, and since then we have not slept. We have all fought for our country," he said. He said Ukraine was facing airstrikes and that Russia was asking them to lay down their arms, and the Ukrainians were continuing to fight. NATO puts over 200 ships and 130 jets at high alert. NATO must ensure that conflict does not spread beyond Ukraine, says alliance chief. NATO has a responsibility to ensure that the conflict does not spread beyond Ukraine, said Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. Speaking during a joint press conference in Riga with the Latvian President Egils Levits on Tuesday, Stoltenberg remarked that the suffering we now see in Ukraine is horrific. "We have a responsibility to ensure the conflict does not escalate and spread beyond Ukraine. That would be even more dangerous, destructive, and even more deadly. The situation could spiral out of control," Stoltenberg said. In response to the situation and to make sure there is no room for miscalculation in Moscow, NATO has significantly strengthened its presence in the eastern part of the alliance, Stoltenberg added. "We have 130 jets at high alert. Over 200 ships from the high north to the Mediterranean, and thousands of additional troops in the region," the NATO chief continued. "NATO will protect and defend every inch of Allied territory," Stoltenberg said. So far, NATO has refused to get directly involved in the conflict, including setting up a no-fly zone beyond supporting Ukraine's resistance to Russia's invasion. US v Russia. Poland transfers all its jets as war takes to the skies boost for Ukraine. Poland has handed over all of its fighter jets to the US in a bid to provide support to Ukraine. The country is prepared to transfer its MiG-29 fighter jets to a US airbase, the Polish Foreign Ministry claimed as it announced a move that could prove crucially helpful for Kyiv. Washington has been looking at a proposal under which Poland would supply Ukraine with Soviet-era fighters, which Ukrainian pilots are trained to fly, and in turn receive American F-16s to make up for their loss. The operation would be immediate and free of charge and, according to Warsaw, hopes to trigger initiatives in the same vein from NATO allies. Poland's foreign ministry said in a statement, "The authorities of the Republic of Poland, after consultations between the president and the government, are ready to deploy immediately and free of charge all their MiG-29 jets to the Ramstein Air Base and place them at the disposal of the government of the United States of America." At the same time, Poland requests the United States to provide us with used aircraft with corresponding operational capabilities. Poland is ready to immediately establish the conditions of purchase of the planes. The Polish government also requests other NATO allies owners of MiG-29 jets to act in the same vein.